Hello, everyone, and welcome to Prowess Goes Live. We are so glad that you are here this week, obviously, in different faces than what you normally see. I'm Natalie Schmerdla, OBM Engagement Manager here at Prowess Project. Prowess Project helps train and vet individuals in the online business management space, and then we match them with their ideal clients. And this week, I have Leah Steinkirch, COO here at Prowess, with me as well.
Hello,
Hi,
Natalie.
Leah.
I'm super excited about this topic.
Yes, we are very excited about this week. We just came off an amazing masterclass last week. So if you joined us there, we are so excited for you to be here with us this week. We are going to be talking about boundaries. So this month's topic has really been around finding ways to be more efficient in your business, using time blocking and batching to really make sure that you are in the best energetic space and mind space to do your best work. And so, as we were talking about what we wanted to share in this week's live show, we talked a lot about how do we communicate this with our client base. So as we get started here, obviously we have a starter question. What I would ask you all is, what was the last event, meeting, or activity that you actually said no to? Be this with a client, for your kids, a family function, whatever the case might be. Let us know in the chat. Leah, when did you last say no?
I actually did it just the other day, Natalie. It
I'm
was
proud of you.
yes, but it was home life. It was one more event got added to the family calendar, and it was going to a concert, which I love going to concerts with my family, but it was a Thursday night. I had a very busy day the next day, and I just said no. Instead of like sucking it up and doing it and being tired the next day, I was just like, no, my family can still have a very good time without me. And it'll be a great opportunity for father and daughter to have fun together.
There you go. There you go. So mine was a business function earlier this week. I woke up and I'm in the Midwest and it is starting to actually be fall. And it was our first cool, rainy, gloomy day. And I didn't want to leave the house. I was really comfy in my sweats and tennies and slippers, or no, tennis shoes, slippers. And so I said no. Um, Obviously, there's a little bit of FOMO, probably could have made some good connections and had some good networking going on there, but it also felt really nice just being comfy and cozy in my house. So, as we
Good
think
for you.
about that, I really want to kind of make sure that we are kind of setting the foundation here for what we're talking about with boundaries and communicating our schedules. So, I will ask another question, Leah. If you said your business had a personality, would it be a Zen yogi or a frazzled squirrel on espresso?
Ooh, that is a really good question, Natalie. I think I like to believe that I appear as that Zen yogi. The business itself, like that is the energy I'd like to put out there. And I think I do everything possible to tame the frazzled squirrel, but I know that it's like hiding inside. That's
Mhm.
probably how I feel, but that is the external thing is the Zen yogi. Does that help?
Yes. Well, I think that that's really interesting too, because I think that part of being an entrepreneur, you've always got that squirrel running, right? We are visionaries as well as helping other visionaries. And so, you and I just even had a conversation earlier this week about taking on that energy of the clients. And we'll talk about a little bit about that as we move forward too today. But um, I agree. I think that the best thing that you can do for your clients is have them feel that Zen yogi feeling, because that's where they're going to realize the value that you are delivering to them in their business. And when they have that feeling, then they're going to go tell their friends, oh my gosh, you would not believe what Leah delivered for my business. I was able to X, Y, and Z, and they're going to want that for themselves. And so that's where your referral networks start. That's where, having those ongoing satisfied customers are really going to help build and scale your business.
And Natalie, what's coming up for me right now as you're saying all this is because I realized this whole time that we've been getting started, a lot of my job behind the scene at Prowess is like getting things on Instagram, posting it here, like when we're doing a live show. So I'm like, I probably look like the frazzled squirrel right now as my eyes are all over the place. And I think that we have to remember that part of being OBMs is because we love a little bit of that frenetic energy of doing all the things and keeping things running. But we know that we show up in rooms as the calm, I've got this, right? I think that's why we are drawn to this role of let me handle all the things behind the scene and like the speaker, you go and I've got it. And we have to remember that we have to like check in with ourselves because otherwise people keep coming back to us to be that Energizer bunny. And at some point the Energizer bunny does run out of, the battery does die. So
it's 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. I, spent so many years in dance and theater and all of the things, and I equate it to the backstage manager. Like, I have a very dear friend who I've known for life, and we danced all through school growing up. And now she has essentially stepped into that backstage manager. And she is so calm that any dancer that walks backstage and, is having their stage fright moment or she just naturally, I know her well enough to know when she's freaking out. And, we're talking on the headsets and all of the things. But that's exactly what I feel like an OBM or any virtual provider is really doing as they are looking at their clients.
Yes. And so you've been in business now about like on your own, totally just doing this, year and a half or a little bit more. Where in your business did you realize that you need to have stronger boundaries, or you needed to shift some things to like preserve that so you weren't, running all the things backstage for everybody else and not for yourself?
Yeah. So I'll give you 2 stories. The first one was I had a lovely discovery call with a client. She was fantastic. She wanted assistance. She was doing these quarterly events. So she, wanted to have help building out the marketing plan and doing the event launch and all of these different things. And it wasn't like, this massive thing that was going to be, hundreds of thousands of, followers and all of that kind of stuff. It was like a 40 to 50 person event. And, it really seemed like run of the mill kind of launch. So I was like, yes, this absolutely sounds like something I can help you with. I would love to support you. Here's what my proposal is. Here's what all the things are. I had not even gotten the proposal, like ink signed or dried yet. And I was getting 8:00 at night texts. And I was getting hey, can you also look at this? And I realized that her sense of urgency, and I used to use this statement all the time in corporate, but her lack of planning did not constitute an emergency on my part. And I had to remind myself that. And so, truly, in that sense, I decided, hey, I'm going to tell you what my boundaries are. And if this is not right for you, then I am happy to go different direction. And we did. That was not a client that I continued moving forward with. The second scenario was a client that wanted to essentially establish a brand guide. It was more of like a sales positioning deck that they would use, and they would just have to move through as the events happened or as the different, seasonal situations were occurring. They could just interchange the colors, the event name, the dates, all of that kind of thing. But it was essentially they were trying to sell these sponsorships. And when she came to me originally, it was like, just establishing this 5-slide standard, make sure that it has our brand colors, it has the look and feel, et cetera, et cetera. Into the second meeting, after I had delivered essentially what she asked for, it was, oh, now can you create this? And it was like scope creep. And so in those moments, both of those scenarios, it was, again, kind of what you say, my niceness kind of welcomed, oh, yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. I didn't specify to either of them, I can do that. And this is what that means. I'm going to need more time. I'm going to need more money. I'm going to need, X, Y, or Z in order to facilitate that for you. So those are two very specific examples of where at different stages in the game, I realized I was essentially opening myself up for them to contact me in any way, shape, or form.
Yep. And that's why I know in OBMU and a lot of our stuff, we talk about setting those guardrails at the very beginning. So for all of you new OBMs out there of like, oh gosh, how would I handle this? It's that first meeting. And I think a lot of us, I know Natalie and I've talked about this, it's that we learned the hard way that having it up front in the onboarding session of here's the times you can reach me. And if it's an emergency, I'll get back to you in this much time, not right away, not in the middle of the night, and setting that tone. And then sometimes, yes, we have to kindly remind them. But I love, Natalie, that you both, one, you can stop, right? We can always stop a contract that's not working for us. Or two, we can go back and insert those words of, yes, we can do that, but it's going to cost more money. Yes, we can do that. This is how much time it will take. This is what resources you will need to make it happen, right? Yeah. We do not have to absorb all the responsibility for their hopes and dreams.
Yes. And I think the key thing there is to define what that is for you. And we'll again talk about that. What my boundaries are going to be completely different than what your boundaries are. And, so you can't be in this compare and despair mode. And you also have to decide what full looks like for you. And I think that a lot of times we as OBMs go to overfull. And that's when we, oh gosh, now I have to put some boundaries in. So you kind of have to find those limits before you really get started.
Yes. Yes. And that's why I do think like living off of a spreadsheet at times, like go and calculate it, write it down. Like if it's going to take this much time, does it actually fit into the real world? Those little cells, if each cell is 30 minutes, does it fit? Yeah. Can you actually get it done? Because otherwise, and I know I harp on this a lot in OBMU, but you're awake at 2 a.m. thinking, oh gosh, did I do that? Or we don't feel really good about what we've delivered. And then our own emotional debt starts to get created of we're not feeling good about the work we're doing because we're overtaxed. So I know you are like a wizard when it comes to like the strategic planning and all of that. And I love all of your calendars. And I think it's so important that you always do have it very visual of this is what realistically it looks like. So if I'm going to say yes to it, is there an empty space on the calendar?
Yes. Yes. And I think one thing that I love about what you do or have done too, Leah, is you have essentially laid out all of the things that it takes, all of the must do kinds of activities. So can you talk a little bit about how you came about with that list, kind of speaking about the spreadsheet, and then how you get that on your calendar? What does that look like for you?
Yes. And then we will get to questions. Thank you guys for posting those. So what I had to do, and this is Leah's crazy brain behind the scenes, is I love the creative part of what I do. I love when Ashley comes and has a new idea and is like, hey, do you think we could do this? What would it take? I love the brainstorming. I love the building. I love the testing. I love playing with AI. So I could do that all day long. But what I realized is I was spending time doing that and not doing the things that I know have to happen every day to run the business. And then that stuff was happening at 9:00 at night when I was panicking of like, oh gosh, did I check that email inbox? Oh gosh, did I make sure those reports went out? All of those things. So I, in a very nerdy way, sat down an Airtable and built out an entire list of all of the technologies that I do need to touch every day. So for example, I need to go into Zapier and see if there are any pauses or errors in Zaps and fix them. I know that I have to go in and answer. We have multiple communities that we run, answer those questions in those communities. I know that I have to check on the metrics of different ads, social media, other campaigns that we're running. Other people are depending on that data. So if I have the spreadsheet and I update it, it's there from whatever time that person needs to check it. If I know that the Zaps are all running, that I don't have to worry that someone's getting glitches. So it was looking at how can I reduce my own stress or my own panic. So I put all the things down, and then I set up an automation that at 9 o'clock every morning, everything that I need to do shows up on that list. Some of there are weekly, some of them are monthly tasks, and they show up in the appropriate time. And then again, because I'm a nerd, I just go in and check them off, and I write down how much time each one takes so that I can, it's like my own little video game of, making it less time every day. Now that I'm doing this repeatedly, which are things once a month I go and look at things, which one do we not need to be doing, or what do I need to add? And I will mention, Natalie, that this week or this month I did add like movement because I need to make sure I am getting up from my desk and going for a walk. I added my own meditation time on there.
Love
and
it.
The other one was deleting things in my on my computer, because that was something that if I don't go and delete the files that I don't need, then I was like running into that capacity error with the computer, and that was taking time out of my day to go in and fix it. So now once a day, I just go in and delete those files.
And how do you feel after you've essentially laid that list out? Like, what results has that delivered for you?
It is making my everyday just feel calmer, because some days when you're like, I need more coffee, and you're trying to get in there, like, what do I even need to do today? Now it's just, I just open it and just start. And those times of the day when you're like, I have 15 minutes, what should I do before this meeting? And you want to be using all of your time valuably, I can go back to that list. So it's created like space in the thinking process for me. I also know that I feel much more confident in what I'm delivering as in my role at Prowess of like making sure all these things are getting done. And it has allowed for more of that creative time, because now when I know that list is completed for the day and I do say, okay, I'm going to take out this project and work on it, I can feel fully focused in it, because I know I've already checked all the inboxes. I can not look at those for 2 hours and just be in this project.
And then what would you say that has delivered for Prowess?
I do think it's given time back, because I'm no longer getting caught up in, like, let's say like a Zapier mess, right? If I haven't been checking that, now I'm like, oh gosh, guys, nothing can happen. I have to spend hours doing this. So it's given Prowess back some time. I'm hoping, but I don't have any data on this, that it's helping everyone else's days run smoother, because no one's waiting on me for a report or an update. I know, like, for instance, this morning I was walking into a meeting to talk about marketing ads and numbers, and the time to get that data for me was 10 minutes versus in the past I had to get up early and then I wasn't fully showing up in that meeting. So I think our meetings are more productive when I just have the data and I'm fully present to deliver the information on it.
Love it. And I definitely have seen that in, again, our weekly L10 meetings and just the conversations that we're having about, marketing results and ads and that sort of thing. We have the ability to provide more brain bandwidth, creative, capacity as well, because those things are just happening now.
I'll send you and Ashley a survey to see how it's going for you guys.
Perfect. I think the other thing too for me that I would just add here is I know, and many of you probably have felt this way, but when you work in a corporate environment and you are on the job, so to speak, there's a commute time. So, whether that's from your bedroom to the kitchen to your office, or that's actually getting in a car, dropping the kids off, doing all those things, right? There's that mental time that you have to kind of prep for the day. And then on the back end, obviously you have the decompression and that kind of thing too. And I know for myself that that was probably one of the biggest adjustments that I had to make for myself as I moved into entrepreneurship, is to remember those times also are important. And so, you know, to your point, even if it's walking around my kitchen island 5 times before I come to my office, whatever the case might be, making sure that I am putting those into my schedule. Because if I was in an 8 to 5 or a 9 to 4, or whatever you want to consider, I would have that time to get to and from. Those are the things that I would do if I was in the office. So that is also super important when you think about batching your schedule and that sort of thing too.
Yes. Yes. We have a great question here
Okay.
from the lovely Sherry.
Hey, girl.
I run a value-based business where I don't price by time. I do, however, attribute a number of hours on the back end so that my work is still profitable. If a client is looking to overstep this allotment with live calls and meetings, how do I handle that?
I think that there's a couple of different things that I would consider in this situation. And again, I'm totally talking off the cuff here, but as you are managing that with your client, one, it is how much time is it? So if it's a half an hour once a week or once a month, I think that's one thing. If it is a continual habit, that is absolutely a conversation where you have to have a tough conversation with the client. So if the milestones and deliverables are to deliver X, Y, and Z project by X date, when you are defining those packages or those services, you have to just make sure that you are adding in some of that contingency. And I would just be very frank up front. This accounts for 1 30-minute check-in once a week, 2 Slack updates, periodically in between, and a status report at the end of the week. If there are needs or conversations that need to occur outside of this, those will be billed at X rate. And maybe it's an overtime charge, 5 hours, it's, X number of dollars for up to 5 hours. Anything over 5 hours a month, maybe it goes to a premium rate. So that's one way I think that you could handle it. The second way that I would think about it is, if you've not had the conversation with your client, they don't know they're doing anything wrong. So that's the hardest thing. And I know that we'll talk about this too, but like being able to kind of reset a boundary after you've already established a working relationship is the same kind of conversation that you need to have with a partner or children about, hey, I let you get away with this for so long, but it's not cool and I don't prefer this. So you have to do that in your business partnerships too. So a couple of ways you could tee that up is just, hey, as I'm looking at my schedule for the next few weeks, I really am I really am trying to make sure that I'm giving you everything that you need, and I'm trying to deliver as efficiently as possible. I know that we've had some, ad hoc conversations 2 or 3 times a week. Let's get them on the calendar now and save from having them be last minute. So really kind of just taking them and scheduling those and saying, let's hold conversations until this touch base or this if you have updates, send them to me in Slack. I will address them at this time or this time of the day or week. I think that it's giving them a rule to follow, because otherwise they don't have any rules. They're just doing what they want to do. And the last tip or note that I would have on here is, a lot of times people will do things in the moment because they will forget. And so it might be as simple as, are you asking me to address this right here in this moment? Or is this something that you're just sharing with me so that you don't forget and we can discuss it in our next conversation?
Yes. I really like your point about they don't know sometimes, like we have to a little bit teach them. Which goes the other way, as you mentioned earlier too, is that if we don't teach them how to work with us in the right capacity, then that scope creep happens. And so I do think in that situation where there's additional meetings getting added, we need to ask the question of like, okay, this, if that's the best use of my time, but we might need to take something off my plate because for the package or the level that we're working together, it doesn't all fit in. And the other thing that popped in my head too is that sometimes when we're being invited to more meetings or there's more one-offs, it's because they're looking at you in a different strategic way. As OBMs work with companies, we start to become trusted with a lot more information, or they like how we are handling teams or problems. And so if that role is changing, sometimes that conversation needs to be had. And especially I love setting it up as a value-based business, and you want to be of the best value, and you need to respect your own values with time. So if this relationship is changing, let's sit down and take a look at it so both parties are being served. And I think those are just good conversations to have. And I think a lot of times too, people like having us in the meeting, right? They like the way that we help them communicate or back them up. And so making sure that we're there for the right reason rather than just like, this is fun when you're here, right? So asking those questions and then resetting it if needed. And I know that I go back to harping on onboarding a lot, but again, putting in, when you have those initial conversations, the time that when are you going to reevaluate that contract? How long have you been working with them? Is it time to say, hey, let's take a look at my capacity and what's working, what's not, and decide if we're still on the right level with the package that I have here. So.
Yes, I think that, and this time of year is a good time of year. Obviously, I don't know when this particular contract started, but having a reinforcement, I guess, at this time of year is not uncommon. Lots of companies do it. It's time for our annual updates. Going into 2026, I wanted to remind you, here are the ways to work with me, or my client expectations, or my, daily schedule update, or something like that. You can always just share that with your clients, and it doesn't seem amiss because it's the time of year. People are doing a lot of this across a lot of different kinds of businesses. So I think, it's something that you can absolutely go through.
No, that's such a great point. And you're reminding me of like when I first got started, and I will admit I'm a people pleaser. You know what I mean?
You
I'll admit. I like when people enjoy working with me. So
Yes.
I was doing a lot and I wasn't speaking up when what I had allotted was now we were way over the boundary. And when we do like take my spreadsheet of everything I'm doing, had I sat down with that person and said, okay, I just want you to understand this is how I'm spending my days, not in a confrontational way, not in a like, we have to change the contract, but like, hey, I think this would be helpful for you to understand everything that happens in the back end of your business. Because my client I'm thinking about, when I did have a conversation of like, okay, just so you know, you've asked me to join this meeting, but I actually am still running this team meeting that you asked me to take care of. They were forgetting what I was doing to help run their business. So they were like, oh gosh, you're still doing that? Oh no, we don't need to do that anymore. So sometimes it's just a good check-in to remind them, here's all the things I'm doing for you, because because it's been running and it's easy for them, they're forgetting, right? It's off their radar. So remind them of all your successes. And like you're saying, this is a good time of year to do it, or just once a quarter or however long of like, hey, just a pulse check. And I want you to see everything that we've got running really well. You could do a red, yellow, green kind of spreadsheet. And so that they see all those things in the green and they're like, oh gosh, you're right. This doesn't make sense. Or maybe it's time to bring in the VA or someone else to help support the stuff that you don't have to be owning as much.
Yeah. And I would definitely not hesitate to just show that information to clients. Again, a lot of the clients are hiring you because they don't know what it takes. They don't understand the amount of time. They don't understand the energy. They don't understand what you're even doing. So transparency there is not a bad thing in any way, shape, or form. And again, your value that you're delivering to them is an increase in their revenue, their profit, their ROI, whatever the case might be. But at the end of the day, they understand that time is money too. And so it's also not a bad time of year to say, here's my rate change information for 2026. So if you need to make adjustments to contracts or anything like that, packages, now's the time that you can do that.
Yep. I see. I do love these conversations, Natalie. Even though like boundaries, a lot of this is about like capacity and that sort of stuff, but it all goes back to boundaries. And I think sometimes it is hard, like our own personal boundary of, I want to do a great job and this is my business and I'm going to keep pushing to succeed. We also have to remember that bragging on ourselves or showing people our successes, it should be part of that strengthening your boundaries, because it only reinforces why you should be getting paid what you're paid, why your business runs what it does, what your values are.
Absolutely. And without boundaries, everybody's going to take advantage and you are not going to get paid. And so you have to establish boundaries.
Yes. We're way off of our question list here, Natalie.
You're good.
But I had one more I wanted to make sure we hit on.
Okay.
Well, this one kind of ties on what we were just talking to, but do you have any examples of how you have introduced these conversations to your client? Like, do you have any starters? Either like the ones you threw out about just timing are great, but do you have other ways that you start those conversations?
Absolutely. So we talk a lot about this in OBM University, obviously, but for me, essentially, when I send over a proposal and a contract to a client, I send them a ways of working with Natalie document. And it says, here are my standard working hours. Here is how you can reach me for, low urgent or low priority, low urgency issues. Do this. For, urgent issues, contact me this way. I clearly lay out for them that I only check email twice a day, in the morning and in the afternoon. We have a client at Prowess that actually does that and has essentially an out of office that says, thank you for your email. We will get back to you. We check email twice a day. I also share with them, that I take all federal holidays off. I put in my out of office or in my signature on my email, I will be out of the office next Tuesday. I am just very over the top with communications. And so having that information provided to them. And why do I only check 2 hours a day? Email 2 hours or 2 times a day. I do that because I am trying to focus and give you my best self during the other times. So I batch my work, and a way to do that is by not having the email dings or the Slack dings interrupt my thought process, interrupt our conversations during team meetings, whatever the case might be. I lay that out. I send it with every contract. It's essentially a Canva doc that I made a public link to. And it provides them basic information, how to pay me, here are my hours, how to contact me. It also includes how to grant me access to their system. So a lot of that foundational stuff is just sent to them in an automation so that I don't even have to remember to do it every time.
I love it.
So when you think about communicating your boundaries with clients, or when you have had to do this, what is an example of a script or a phrase, kind of back to Sherry's question, when the client kind of ignores it or just kind of pushes through and says, well, this is important?
One that I have used, and this is not from some fancy business book, it came from my kids' Montessori school.
I love it.
Was just the phrase, I'm not available. I I've even seen it like you're saying, like you can have it as if you get a text message, some people like you could like, no, you get the ones back that say, I'm driving, I can't answer you right now. You
Mhm.
can just have one that sends back like, I'm not available right now. If it is like, if you have set hours for clients. But that phrase, like in let's say you're in a bit like a team call and it's like, oh, hey, and this is coming up next week. Can you just be there? Can you just handle that? And just to say, I'm not available, even if you might be, but it's not their designated time, we'll just give it that pause to be like, oh, and then it comes down, is it really essential that I am there? Or it looks like you have everything that you need, right? Again, it's so that you're just not their like emotional support human in that situation. And so you're just inviting the conversation of like, is this the best use of time? Do I really need to be there? How else could we handle it? And if it is really essential, then we'll let's rearrange it so that it all works out for everybody. But that is a phrase that I use in my life, whether it's professional or personal. When I am I don't know if I can commit, like, or just saying like, I don't know if I'm available, right? Just gives it that pause to
Yeah.
then reset and take a look and like, oh, okay, well, can you? And then let me know. And if not, we'll move it. And then the conversations come about of what are the other options? Is this really important? What are other ways we can handle it?
I love that you say that too, Leah, because I think a lot of times in those moments, as people pleasers, we forget the reason why we came into business for ourselves. We want the flexibility and we want to be able to set our own schedules. So if you have a client who continually oversteps those boundaries, or those, time slots that you've laid out for them, I think it's super important to just be very honest with them. I am not available is a very simple phrase. No is a complete sentence, as you said, all or say
Mhm.
all the time too. So I love that because you don't have to give an explanation. You can just say, I'm not available.
Yeah. And to give this more context, how it worked with in the Montessori world is that if you think about like kids, right? And there's a teacher or leader, they're going to knee-jerk reaction is to be like, can I go to the bathroom? Can you help me find this? I need this. I need, and it's that tugging on the sleeve and the leader, whatever, to say, not available, meaning I'm focused on something else right now, not available for this conversation. And it would give that student, like they would wait until the person was available. And now you have my attention. So sometimes I think with our clients that if we're always immediately answering them or always fitting in the meeting and not saying this doesn't fit, I'm not available. Because I'm not available could mean I'm at capacity with time for this contract. It could mean I have something else on my schedule. It could mean that's not the time that I work with you. Right. So it's just giving it that structure for that person to wait for us and for us to wait to be like completely present for them to help with whatever it is that their needs are. And sometimes I have to do it like when I get interruptions during the day, if I'm really focused on writing something or working on something and someone comes and asks me a question, I'm just mentally not available. Could I stop what I'm doing and answer what we're going to eat for dinner? Sure. But I'm not available for that kind of thought process right now. I need to finish this because this is what I'm 100% present for right now. And that's, I feel
And
like, is good for us.
yes, and I was just going to say presence. That is the biggest thing that I think that we need to remember is that for you to take the time away from whatever it is you're doing, eating your lunch, working on another client, in the middle of a project, whatever, you're not present in that moment to be able to switch and pivot. And so I think that that is super important. And also, I'm gonna use the I am not available with my children um, at all hours of the night.
Yes. Let me know how it goes for you guys.
Will
It,
do. Will do.
it's a very empowering statement to be like, I'm not available. Like mentally, I'm not available for whatever you're bringing on right
Yeah.
now. Like,
Yeah.
give me a minute. Um,
And
I'm
conceptually thinking that they're teaching children to understand that, makes such a.
well,
I love the Montessori story.
this is a whole other live show, but it's the idea of helping somebody else problem solve, right?
Yeah.
If we are always there solving every problem all day long, one, we're actually moving the needle,
Yeah.
right? That's just creating codependency. But two, when we give them the space to think through it and do you really need what you're asking for me in this moment? Can it wait? Because how many times a day do we reach out or grab something just because it's like, like
Fair.
I'll pick up my phone or I'll go to ChatGPT. Could I figure it out myself? Yes. So that idea that like let people problem solve for themselves, that's where it comes from. If like usually that child doesn't actually need that leader's attention, they probably could figure it out. And then if they really do, they're going to stand there and be patient. But
Yes.
again, whole other live show.
Deal. All right. One more quick question, and then if we have any other call outs here. So we talked a lot about, getting into those situations, and when you think about the clients and how you want to communicate this and not feeling guilty, I think that's the thing that we have to overcome most often is our own personal feelings that come up when we are saying no. It's because we are people pleasers. It's because as online providers, as business managers, as OBMs, we are wanting to be the go-to. That's how we come to these roles that we are often in. But when you have a boundary in place, how much better does that feel?
Ugh.
Like, right?
Yes. Even the idea of like just sitting down to think of how you want that to look. You might not be really great at the no or the I'm not available. Like you might not be really great at the negotiating the contract, but to put it down on paper, what you want that to be is such a huge first step. And then I do think it's like we're training ourselves. We're working. It's a muscle to continually exercise that. Because it's easy to default to, fine, I'll just do it, right?
Yeah.
Fine, I'll give them 15 more minutes, or fine, I'll just take over that meeting for them. But when we say, nope, this is what I can do, or we're just planning that out, it feels so good and gives us that, reminds of why, like you said, why we're doing all this in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just even asking the question, Natalie, it's like, I feel like that, taking a breath type feeling.
Yeah. Well, and I equate this back in, many of my corporate trainings and things like that. There was this program, I think it was called Emergenetics, if I remember. There's like 101 different management models, and it's like all of these things, and you go through and you learn about all of these different things. And one of the things that I remember and go back to is if you are always the one that is solving the problem, kind of like you were saying, your team that you are growing, whether that's your client's team, whatever the case might be, they don't have the ability to essentially fish for themselves, right? They aren't going to develop and expand themselves. So if you step back and think about the kind of business that you want to run, do you want to be, Miranda Priestley's go-to 24/7 all the time? Or are you going to be someone that establishes the processes, the systems, the wherewithal, so that when those things come up, hey, can you jump on this call? I'm not available at this time, but I'd be happy to do this next Tuesday. I have these times available. Or, in our next touch base, we can add on 15 minutes and have this conversation. That feels a lot more freeing, and it feels a lot more like the business that I want to lead as I look forward to where I want to go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think it helps establish your own value to that company or that person, right? We shouldn't be so available or have such fuzzy boundaries that confuses them. So when we say no, or when we say we have to do it at this time, if it's really that important, then they need to pay for you to be available whenever they need you.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And this kind of ties into Anna's statement about when people keep wanting changes, or what, like in project work, and when you say no, or you can pay this fee, right? Then, like in her example, they pay the fee, right? Sometimes we don't know that they will do it unless we're putting the hard stop.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And kudos to you, Anna, for doing that because it's a hard thing to do, right?
Yes. Yes. It gets easier the second time. Like she said, just it's
Yes.
a practice. All of this is a practice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. I cannot believe that this has flown by so quickly. Please be sure to join us next week for another Prowess Live show. Thank you all, and we will be in touch soon. Take care.